beyond my reach. But I can grant you a fragment of myself, as a guide to find what is most important to your ultimate survival. Is it strength? Is it willpower? Is it empathy? The arrival is soon. The tests will be rigorous. They will be difficult. They will be deadly.
Apparently they're starting now.
Maybe not this one first. Hang on. There we go. Oh, how cute! Don't eat that. Really monster. Sorry.
An Astrocetus. They have a lot of magical abilities. Their main one being that they have a teleport, a hyperdrive of sorts. And what that does is anything within their close range or their immediate vicinity will actually be pulled into this bubble and blinked into the target destination as a group. In all honesty, their travel abilities are really all they're good at in combat. They have a great bite, they have an awesome tail whip, which looks beautiful, but compared to other dinos, that's not much. But they do make up with their saddle, which is next tier of any saddle we've ever done, because this saddle comes equipped with 3-ball turrets. So it also has its saddle that will convert its energy that it gains, its natural space energy, into bombs. And then those will be what the rider can control and drop from its bomber mode. So you can teleport in, drop bombs, covered on your fire on your way out, and then you're able to teleport back out. It does have a movement mechanic. It starts off really, really, really slow. It's a big giant whale, and then as you keep moving forward, you slowly start to ramp up in speed, and it's almost like a gearing system. And you'll get a little notification of when it's reaching those higher speeds. And then the faster you're going, the straighter his turns have to be, or the narrower his turns have to be. And if you overturn, it'll actually slow him down. So he's something that you want to build up momentum to get to an effective speed. Because if you come in at a low speed, or you come in on a sharp turn, you're going to get slowed way down and be a very, very vulnerable target, because you're just floating almost in space. How you move, how the pilot controls this thing is extremely important. Like the whole team needs to be working together, and it's a team tame. You can control it solo. You can be sitting in the turret just whistling it around. Even solo players will be able to experience the full plethora of what this whale can do and what he can deliver. These things are definitely an alpha tame. They're a top tier tame, so they're going to be a very difficult thing to get, and they're going to be a limited thing to get. They won't mess with you, and they'll leave you alone. If you do provoke them, they will definitely try to push you out, and they don't like being stuck in one place. They're very difficult to get locked down, and part of that taming process is a very involved tame. If you try to game it, it's not going to work out well for you. They can blink out of existence. So let us introduce you to our Bloodstalker. He is an otherworldly life form, and it's able to produce its own means of defense and transportation biologically. As you can see, it's webs that shoot out. You can either use them to grab something and pull it towards them, and pull it in and then start sucking its blood, or it can use it to swing. The webs, it can shoot up to 2 webs. Each web is actually running physics, so you can either shoot a single web and just initiate swings from a fixed point, or you can attach one web and then attach another web and use that to create a force directly towards and launch yourself forwards, or even pull back as if a slingshot to launch forwards. And then once in the air, your fall and your movement by spreading out your legs and gliding down, or you can actually stick to walls or stick to any surface. Especially useful if you're trying to set up for grabbing something walking by. You will definitely find these in the wild doing that. Their swing has a momentum carrying mechanic. The faster you're going, the further you're falling, the faster your swing will start getting. So one of the key things for this and just general for moving in it is to get up really high, or to try to gain height before you start really going into swinging movement. Based on where you're looking will actually influence your swing and your momentum direction, so you have quite a bit of control in the swinging phase also. On water, it will stay above the water. You can actually walk on the surface of the water. It's pretty fantastic. If you see something below that is within your grab weight range, you can grab that and pull it up to you and initiate the same thing as if on land. You can also just from the top of the water just initiate swinging from anywhere else. So they're quite easy to get in and out of the water. They're versatile in both, and they're quite effective swimmers too. They can dive into the water also. They are very spider-like, so they can turn in place. And then they have an added movement mode. Once you pull out a weapon as the rider, it will go into more of a sentry type position. It'll stand up much taller and put the rider forward in a position where they can now aim their gun. And they have full field of view in the forward position. And from this movement mode, it'll be very similar to like controlling a raptor from first person with a weapon out, where left and right turns it and spins it, and forward and backward moves the creature back and forth. Once you are picked up by this thing, as you can see, the carry mechanic is not so much that you're mounting the creature, but the creature is attaching itself to you, which is how it can move you around and set you up in cool positions. This method has a benefit to where it gives you part of its vision. It enhances your vision. You can see much better in the dark. You can see enemies, they're highlighted. It's more of a primal vision.
We're going to talk about the Ferox. This is a adorable little guy, at least when you see him most of the time. He's very fluffy, and he's actually a very helpful pet, just as a shoulder pet. You can carry him around and walk around with him once you've tamed him as your shoulder-mounted pet. And he will give you heat. He'll even sometimes look for element, tell you when there's some nearby, and dig it out of the ground. But then he's got this other mode to him, this other ability. He likes element. He likes it a lot, and element has a unique reaction to his chemistry, his body, and he transforms into this massive just beast, this monster thing. And once he gets into that form, he's a machine. He's fast. He has some really nice attacks, and then on top of just normal swiping attacks that he can do while moving and running, he's also got a pounce that he'll pin something down, give it a few punches, and then throw it away. And then as you're using him and fighting with him, you'll be building up to be able to use an ult that will do a mega slam, and it'll knock anything else off that's mounted, at least within a range, off their mounts. And then unless they're on another one of these, unless there's an enemy on another Ferox, will be the only way you can prevent it. But he's going to be unique. Whether it's PvP or just taking him for a cave run, you don't want to have to bring around cryopods everywhere. This guy is almost a natural cryopod. And then his movement modes, while he's in big form, are quite impressive. He's fast, but he also has a consecutive leaping ability. He'll do one jump, and then if you time it right, you can set up a second springier jump that'll go even further and a little bit faster, and he starts just building up. And then if you hit a wall or a rock, similar to the Deinonychus, he'll be able to continue running up and pouncing and leaping from location to location. So he is now your portable battle tank / movable mount. All this stuff does have a cost though. Each time you transform him, he's building up his need for element. The higher that gets, the more easy it will be to trigger him into a bloodlust state. Kind of similar to like a Giga Rage, to where he's just like, I'm done, I'm out. He gets super strong, everything is an enemy. But once he's past that phase, he'll actually just pass out and he'll be back to little baby form, and he'll have cleared his need for element. But building up to that, like each time you transform him, you're increasing this addiction. You're making it easier to get into Bloodlust Rage, but you're also getting much stronger. He's getting much stronger, and he's also being able to take a lot less damage, so he's getting a lot tankier.
And you can also ride it as well?
Yeah. Magmasaur. A fire-based creature. He charges up his internal forge, he charges up his heat, and that's where he builds a lot of his attacks from. And based on what area he's in, if he's in a very cold area, or he's in water even, that'll affect his ability to charge. So if he's in a very warm environment, somewhere that's volcanic, he's actually going to be very fast, effective. So he'll charge faster, he'll get a little bit more charge, and he'll build up to maximum charge much faster. Once he hits that max charge, he is now a superheated thing. So just getting close to him is actually going to hurt you. Luckily, the players that are riding him are safe. The saddle that he's in is just a giant heat shield, which has the added benefit of letting you actually swim into lava or swim around in lava or be in much hotter environments than you normally would be able to. This guy will protect you from those things, and he'll keep you acclimated. You drop metal into his inventory and it'll start smelting down into metal ore. He likes to eat just about everything. He burns down and digests everything, and he can also turn that into a projectile. It's quite a fun projectile because it's our first true artillery-like projectile. You can get a lot of height with it. You can shoot out pretty far, especially for a dino. We haven't had a dino with a real ranged attack, other than like short range or like a fire wyvern breath. This projectile is going to reach out quite a bit further. And once this thing hits an impact somewhere, it's going to explode out in all kinds of fragments, and it's magma, so it leaves behind destruction and creates like almost an area of denial. If going near it's gonna burn you, and it is gonna be dangerous. But he's not very fast, and as soon as it starts raining, or if you're in water where it's cold, he becomes a much slower, much weaker. Once he's actually in water, he can't even charge up his forge. He can't build up the heat. He's just completely extinguished. He's got multiple options. Like once you charge that forge up, you can just go in meleeing, and you're going to be burning everything within your range. As long as you keep that heat going, you might have to recharge every now and then to keep it up. But you'll get that additional melee, or you can shoot it off, and you'll shoot out your lava-type projectile, your long-range projectile, which it's going to do some damage. It's going to be something that you would be worried about, but if you're not standing still, it should be easy to dodge at a distance. But up close, it can come in pretty fast. Or you can do a short-ranged AoE attack, which they showed in the video, and it looked amazing. That's where all those projectiles were coming flying out of his back and all around the place. It's just he just extinguishes and pushes out his forge and cools it down like rapid fast while doing damage to everything around him. And his range is not limited to turret range, but it's really close, and at a distance, it is very hard to hit accurately. At a distance, it's a very, very high skill shot, but you're gonna have to arc it up and you won't be able to see where you're actually shooting, more like a traditional artillery shell. And you're not gonna be able to deliver exactly on target. It's gonna take time to dial in your shot and where you're going. People who are good at this will be able to, but it's still gonna be a very slow thing coming in because it's gonna have to go really high up, and it's a fireball, like you can't not see it. So this guy, we're exploring that his projectile is a more food-based projectile. So each time he's shooting it, he's consuming significant amounts of food while shooting it. So the challenge is keeping him full and keeping him fed. Fuel sources like oil, gas, propellant will be much more effective for this. That is his ammo essentially, but he'll still eat everything else like a normal dino. For this guy, anyone that's long range and just moving and shooting back at him is going to be a hassle for this guy because he can't get long range quick. So if it's a mobile thing, it's going to be really hard for him to deal with that, and then he'll have to close the distance, and then he's strong again because he deals really strong damage. But that gives other people an opportunity to counter it.
This thing is big, so you have to have enough space to where you can really allow this thing to live and play comfortably. Zane, what are some? I mean, we obviously know that you can build on its pack because I can see.
Well,
that
I saw some people concerned that this was like a Titanosaur type tame where it was like temporary tame, but that's not the case.
No, he is a permanent tame, and he's essentially your mobile base in water. He's your submergible raft. Really.
Oh, man.
But he also grows, like his shell is a fertile ground. So he'll grow some rare resources so that over time you can just have those resources there available for you so it's not as hard to find. But really he's just a great mobile base. And then once you're underwater, his shell with all that vegetation has an oxygen bubble. So you don't have to worry about having a scuba tank or wearing, scuba armor and dealing with all these water dinos that are too strong, or having to have a tech suit. Like just hanging out near your turtle will be more than enough for you, and you'll be able to be fine. And we're also taking into consideration we're making sure there's systems that you're not going to leave people behind too. We'll have some auto ways to grab people if you're going underwater and bring them on the turtle, bring them with you.
And this is it. This is the Moeder. So what Moeder is, this Moeder, she is our underwater midway boss, like our sub-boss. And this is a purely underwater fight. It's in a big, giant, massive cavern. Plenty of room to move around. It's not too cramped or anything like that. She has some babies. You gotta fight the babies. She's not going to like that, so then you're going to have to deal with her. And they're all eels, big, giant, massive eels. They have some pretty significant electrical attacks that you can't get very close to. They will zap you. It's going to be a challenging fight, and it'll definitely require a lot of preparation. And it's underwater, so that's not something that we've done a lot of combat experience designed to be fun for tames from the water. If you are equipped with the proper diving gear or movement gear, you can fight off the mount, but it will be very difficult because there's some very big projectiles being thrown around that you'd have to dodge, and they're electrical, so they're not fun to deal with. Yeah, it's a difficult boss, but we are definitely aiming for it to be a challenging fight, but one that you have to prepare for. There'll definitely be rewards attached, at the very least engrams, but as we build out those final parts, that's where all those details come into place. As you know, there's going to be a lot of unique biomes in Genesis, and with those biomes are going to be some very unique dinos with new skins for them. These are just a few of the ones that we have. As you can see there, we've got the Allosaurus, the Paracertherium, the Parasaur, the Mosasaurus, Spino, Raptor, Tapiara, and the Saber. I think if you take a good look at them, you can kind of see what biomes they're representing, and that each one of these dinos will have a, similar to the aberrant dinos, they'll have some slightly adjusted stats, so these are more valuable to the player. So in the bog area, all the Parasaurs will be that kind of Parasaur, and you will be able to bring them to the other maps, and take them to there and show people your dinosaur that's unique from Genesis, and we will have quite a few for each biome.
Although it is the same creature with slightly adjusted stats, as Zane said, I feel like these reskins are a little bit more than the reskins that we typically do.
Well, and it's the creatures that are already very used and very useful, just giving them a new flavor, a new twist, and those stats that you're getting are definitely a benefit if you're trying to min-max, if you're trying to get the best dino possible. These will get you something that's a little bit better than anything else as far as it's either health or damage. But as far as that stat goes that gets boosted, this will be the absolute best that you can get. So if you do want to go for that best line and you want the best damage or health, I can't remember, I need to look at my notes again. But they will have a boost that will put them a step above every other dino from the island or anywhere else. And they also look extremely unique. Get a new flavor on each one of these guys.
The missions are super cool. There's a lot of really fun, both action-packed but also exploratory and relaxing. There's a wide variety of mission types. But let's talk about one right now that's just a little bit of a silly fun mission that we decided to throw in. And what is it, Zane?
So we're gonna have dodo basketball, or in space
on the moon.
We're gonna have bulldog basketball.
Nice. So it's
because that's the best basketball.
So it's like Space Jam and the moon.
On the moon.
Low gravity basketball as a mission.
Low gravity made this actually a really difficult thing to do because initially we started off with normal values, and low gravity works really well. Projectiles go a lot further with a lot less force. So whenever I first started this mission, we'd already built it out for a different place.
That's pretty cool.
Well,
we'll
we
look
started
forward
converting
to
the low grav. It was just launching the poor thing into space. I felt so
I can
bad.
imagine there's probably so many things on Lunar with the low gravity that have been
Oh, it's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
So we created this character, HLN-A, somebody who's a source of missions and goals in the game. So we added kind of a multiplayer or single player if you're playing single player, but it's a multiplayer sort of mission objective system that allows you to find cool things to do in the world, and Zane can talk about that in a little bit, but there's a lot of different types of missions and fun stuff to do, whether by yourself or with your friends. Kind of building on some of the stuff we had with Extinction, with our orbital supply drops, and you guys both worked extensively on. I think that was some foundation for how do we do things in the open world in a survival game that are fun, and you might want to build on them and make different variations and go back to them. So I think what became of that is this new mission system that HLN-A is kind of the arbiter of. So, she's always looking for things for you to be able to accomplish. And also, it's very much more lore-based than even our previous expansion.
So this is our fishing net. We always want to make sure we have something for primitive players,
I love
for the lower scale players. We want to add something new to the early game. And one of the problems with the fishing pole is that it's very difficult to use without a chair, without somewhere safe to place a chair down. And then getting bait is very difficult. And it's more of a mid-game fishing item or fish-related item because you're getting loot from it too. It's not the greatest loot, it's not the best loot that you can get in the game, but it's definitely good loot, and you need, you know, hard to get items for that bait. So the fishing net serves the purpose of the primitive player being able to get an easy access to meat. So anywhere you have fish, this becomes a great way to get fish meat. All you have to do is stand still in one place. You do a wind up, and then you throw it out. It looks pretty awesome.
No, it does.
As it spreads out, splashes in the water, and then as it's falling down, any fish that get trapped in that net will get caught. And then as soon as you start to pull in, the net closes, the fish are trapped, and the more fish you have, the more they'll actually start fighting back. So if you get a big load with a lot of fish, it actually becomes a difficult thing to do. And then once you pull in the fish, it'll, based on how many fish you caught, how big they were, it'll give you a bunch of meat back in return.
I'm HLN-A, your holographic guide.
So we created this character, HLN-A. It's our first actual character that speaks to you in the ARK franchise throughout the game. Fortunately, we have a pretty good character in Helena, we think, as so far the only character that's actually spoken in ARK, and we wanted to kind of distill her personality. You can see in the trailer that she kind of creates this little buddy AI for you and kind of imprints her personality onto it for you. So it's not actually her, but it's kind of like an AI that's created by her. And our goal for this character, which by the way is available now, if you go and get the Season Pass right now, everywhere else in ARK, if you're an owner of the Season Pass, you'll have our first version of HLN-A as a cosmetic pet that can travel around with you, talk to you, react to things that you do. And this is going to be really cool as we lead up to Genesis launch, because we have a lot of opportunities to update HLN-A, maybe give you some cool lore bits, or maybe give you some little things to do in the game. But with this, we have an opportunity to actually give you one of the key parts of Genesis.
This ark has creatures that never were, if you catch my meaning. It's not all dinosaurs from prehistory. The minds behind this ark dug into their mythology books, not just their Dinos for Kiddos books. Get used to it. You'll see some things in the Genesis simulation that never were, too. I reckon it's yet another way to keep you survivors on your toes.
Now, she's not complete. It's just the first iteration, and the one actually in the expansion will be far, far more developed than what you will have today. But the character model is the same. A lot of the animations are the first pass at those animations. The personality, the behavior, all that stuff as she follows you around is very similar to what you'll see with the character in Genesis, but amplified 10x. A companion and somebody who's a source of missions and goals in the game. So we added kind of a multiplayer or single player if you're playing single player, but it's a multiplayer sort of mission objective system that allows you to find cool things to do in the world, and Zane can talk about that in a little bit, but there's a lot of different types of missions and fun stuff to do, whether by yourself or with your friends. Kind of building on some of the stuff we had with Extinction, with our orbital supply drops, and that you guys both worked extensively on. I think that was some foundation for how do we do things in the open world in a survival game that are fun, and that you might want to build on them and make different variations and go back to them. So I think what became of that is this new mission system that HLN-A is kind of the arbiter of. So, she's always looking for things for you to be able to accomplish, and also it's very much more lore-based than even our previous expansions, because she's there with you. Maybe she knows a little bit more about what's going on than you do. Maybe she doesn't, who knows. But she'll be kind of guiding you through a lot of that stuff. So instead of Explorer Notes in Genesis, we've got HLN-A, and she's there serving that same purpose of advancing ARK's story and lore, and we're super excited about that.
Cheers, Survivor!
this is the Tek Shoulder Cannon. This is a weapon that attaches to your character via your shield slot. Once it's on there, as long as you have element equipped or in your inventory, it'll be able to fuel this, and it will have multiple firing modes, so you can set it from standard fire to rapid fire to sniper fire. And each one of those modes have different profiles that they maintain. The standard mode is actually a pretty wide scan, but it has a projectile that is fairly fast. It's a little bit more likely to hit your target. The further something is, the less likely it's going to hit, just because it has time to move. And it has like a medium range. Then the rapid fire has a higher fire rate. It has a higher fire rate, but sustained fire will overheat it. And then the sniper fire is a much more condensed and charged up shot that will go further. It actually targets more directly in front of the player, keeps the turret focused, whereas rapid fire is a much wider cone of searching, more or less all the way around, at least where it can reach. There's a player's head there, so it can only go so far to this side, but it has a lot of degrees of freedom on the left. So it's something that will target any enemies, hostiles. You can set its preferences similar to a turret, and you can set what it'll attack, and then just from there on out, you run around with this guy going and doing its thing. This is going to be really, 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 really big for PvP for sure. PvE also, it will just, anything they're doing that requires damage, this is going to magnify that by extreme amounts. And once you're moving around, it's just constantly searching for targets. It's very strong because it gives a person just extended power. It's another weapon that's firing for them at all times and targeting things. The only downside to this is all of its projectiles, except for the sniper, are pretty slow. As long as you're not right next to it whenever it's being spawned and you're moving and changing your direction, you can avoid getting hit. But it is a very costly thing to bring, and that means you have to carry element on you to carry this thing around. And it does work with any armor or no armor. You don't need anything to equip this other than attaching it to your shield slot. It'll pop up from holding your E, your multi-use button. Once that wheel pops up, it'll have a activate, deactivate, whichever that toggle is. If it is active and you whistle neutral, that'll also disable it for those quick disables like, oh no, that's a friendly person, or I forgot that it's on and I'm running around in a place that I'm not targeting hostiles, or I didn't realize I had player targeting on, and you're talking just to your neighbor or something like that.
The Tek Jump Pad, which is extremely configurable. It does direction, and it does force or power, and then it can be mounted on any surface as long as there's enough flat surface there. It's not going to go in the mesh. And then it'll be very similar to a trampoline, but you're choosing where that trampoline is pointed and where it's going to launch you and how far it will launch you. So the use cases for this are also up to the user. Like, it's only limited to what you want to do with it, but you can very easily set this up as something that will get you over some type of obstacle that is too big to start building things on, or to build like a massive pathway to get up this giant cliff. You can just strap one of these down near the bottom of it, point it at the right angle, give it the right amount of power to get to the top, and then just jump over it. And it's there for you every time, and other people can use it if they want. But then you can get much more advanced to where you're setting up actual jump puzzles and pushing people through a jump trap or something of that sort. These are the things that are limitless. Tek Remote Guided Missile. This is a cruise missile that is a shoulder-fired missile. As soon as the player launches it, they get to watch the missile go out and expand out into its full missile size shape. And then they assume control of the missile from its viewpoint and can direct it to wherever its target is. Once it hits something, that'll create an explosion, or you can actually remotely trigger it too early if you want for whatever reason. You're also not forced to stay in the missile. You can jump out and let it continue just going on its path straight from where it left. And it does quite a bit of damage, but it is a one-time use rocket launcher. As soon as you use it, it's gone. Very similar to like a javelin type missile, but you're just remote guiding it in after that. It does get a lot harder to control over time. It starts to speed up. And then the missile itself can be painted on, it can be written on. You can use these to send messages.
Oh man!
With your gift of a missile to whoever you're sending that
anticipate some of these messages.
Yeah.
And oh man.
And then the really cool part, and this is the beauty of it, is after you've hit, it'll do a nice little pan out so you can see the carnage.
Oh, nice.
Of what you've done.
Yeah.
Which can't be skipped if you don't want to watch that, or if things are a little hot at the moment. You're in some heavy PvP action. This is going to be cool. It's going to be fun.
It looks like that trailer, or that, not trailer, but the teaser for it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. It's pretty quick. And if you did notice, there was a little bit of highlight around the Pteranodons.
Mm-hmm.
Might have a little bit of assisted visuals to help you get to your target more accurately. And this is the mining drill, our machine tier super harvester that will empower the player to be able to harvest whatever they want. It's an equipable tool that will rapidly harvest resources in front of the player who is using it. By pressing and holding the fire button, the mining drill will use gasoline, similar to the flamethrower, and it will be able to harvest rocks, trees, corpses, crystals.
Pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, pretty much everything. It is a impressive laser, and it is also gasoline powered, so an affordable, high-tech item that gets you a lot. As you keep using it, it'll start overheating, and overheating will hit a phase where it forces it to cool down. You'll actually take a little bit of a durability hit. So part of the harvesting mechanic of this thing is just maintaining that heat level,
Gotcha.
Not going too high, not letting it go overboard. Then if you use it on players or dinos, it'll actually apply a similar effect to the flashbang. So it's even effective in PvP if you want to use it that way, or just for trolling your friends. It's a significantly capable harvesting component. Nothing will ever beat breeding dinos for harvesting, getting a bunch of weight in their stats, having a high melee dino that specifically is great at mining metal. They're always going to be the king of harvesting for that specific item, but this is a great filler item for people that have trouble bringing around dinos, harvesting all over the map or anything like that. You can just take a heavy weight carrying dino and jump off, use this to harvest, and then head back on home or head back around. So next up for Genesis, we have a new structure, and the structure is going to be our ocean platform. And what this is going to be is very similar to all of our previous platform structures in that you can build on it, you can place anything on it. It's a foundation for building anywhere you want. The difference being that it floats on water. It's very sensitive to land. It can't be placed anywhere near land. It has to be fully in the water, but it will stay on the water, and then there's a giant hole in the center that you can fill up with foundations, or you can leave it open so that you can create a safety pin for any of your water dinos so that they're actually safe floating out on the open ocean. And this is one of those things that over time it will degrade. You'll have to take care of it and maintain it just to prevent them from being a nuisance and just left all over the place.
It's going to have a very, very, very high structure limit since it's not a moving platform. This is a place where you will be able to have your base out on the open water, on the ocean. And then there will be 2 different size variants. We're going to have the wooden size, which is going to be a little bit smaller, with quite a large hole in the inside still. I think I can't remember exactly how many foundations across, but it's quite a few.
Yeah.
And then that will actually fit inside of the larger metal one. The metal one will be much larger for a full size. You could build an actual full size base on this and live off of this raft with everything you need, and maybe even a few dinos for storage. So we're trying to give players a way to play on the water and be more in tune with the water. And then we're going to make sure it supports full attachments for ropes and all that, so you can actually get back on it. When we have shown at least some of the different places you'll be.
Yes.
And given that one of them has quite a bit of this substance, we needed a way for people to actually be able to play and survive in that environment. And we lack the structure for it. So this is filling a need and enabling gameplay that wouldn't be anywhere else, but definitely, even more importantly for Genesis, is making sure that it's completely accessible. So starting off with the primitive pressure plate, the smaller one, this is just a pressure plate. As soon as something steps on it, it knows whether it's an enemy, or whether it's a friendly, or whether it's a dino, and you can set it to have any type of reaction you want to any pin-coded item. So this is giving players a way to set up a reaction of some sort, either whether it be a trap, whether it be some type of surprise lighting. It's hard for us to say just how many things they will be able to use it for and what exactly they'll be able to do with it, because this is literally giving them a tool to create an experience. The Tek alarm system has an area detection. We're definitely going to do everything we can to make sure that's visible and it's clear that what area is being affected, but you will be able to configure whether it's a radius that's getting affected, so a circle area or a square box, because we want to make sure that this tool is very configurable per the situation. And you can set whether you want to detect things in a large area or you just want to detect things in a very small area, and then you can set how big of an area you will actually trigger things. But these are all tools to get almost a machine system or a triggering system, a little bit of automation. So the common use cases are obviously like dino catching thing, and they work fantastic for it, especially just a simple pressure plate. You put it in the middle of a run between gates, and you just run through and only have it detect wild dinos, and as soon as that catches up to you, it can trigger both those gates to close shut, and now you've got your taming dino. But that's a really simple use case. There's so much more that you can do outside of that, especially once you start adding turrets in and different settings for friendlies and enemies, or if you wanted to have just like a warning array to where you turned on lights because an enemy came close or because someone came close to let them know, hey, back off, there's a base here. Whatever that case is, but it does give you all those options to do those. The only requirement is that something works off of a pin code or takes pin code activation, deactivation, and then it can be triggered by these things.
Generally speaking, what can we expect from the environment that we'll be in this new DLC or this new world that we're building?
Yeah, well, first of all, for us, an expansion pack has to include a really cool new map. No questions asked. So you're going to get that in both Genesis Part 1 and Genesis Part 2. I'm super excited about what we're doing in Genesis Part 1 because it's a simulation that's a little bit different from the arcs. We are able to get away with some more things that kind of maybe were even too crazy for for Ark being more of a physical type environment. And so you'll see a lot of new things that you haven't seen in the game. What you see on our key art right now and in the trailer are just a few of the biomes. Obviously, we're going to have a crazy snow mountain biome, kind of a Mustafar like crazy active volcano like environment as well. We really haven't had that in Ark. We've had it like where maybe the Dragon Arena is volcanic, but you can't really go anywhere. Or like some maps like Ragnarok or whatever, or even Scorched Earth have volcanic areas. But this part of the map is like all volcanoes.
That's super cool.
Yeah. And then, one of our big creatures that we're revealing today is this giant tortoise that you can build structures on, harvest even stuff that grows on his back, things like that. Obviously, he's got to live somewhere. So we're going to have a pretty cool water biome plan that's
People seem excited about that.
Yeah,
one.
it's not just window dressing like sometimes the water biome seems to feel like. In some cases, this is definitely like a key part of this map. So we're really excited about that. And this is just a few of the creatures. We've got lots more planned for the expansion, lots more items and stuff like that. We'll talk about that, these specific things a little bit as we go. But I think all in all, if you're wondering like what is Genesis, like it's Ark's next chapter. It's more of what you love with other things that you haven't experienced yet that we hope you're going to love even more on top of what you already are playing. And if you're wondering where it fits in the storyline, I will just say it's not accurate to say it picks up where Extinction left off, but it integrates very well with the story of Ark, and I'm pretty excited between Genesis Part 1 and Genesis Part 2, the story experience we're going to be crafting. And I'm excited to take it out of the Explorer notes and put it actually into the environment and mix that sort of sandbox survival that Ark has always had with a little bit more kind of find your way, sort of semi-directed like story things that you can sort of opt into. You don't have to do them.
Exactly.
You can still play Ark the way you want. You can still get that experience on this map, but we're trying to give you something you probably won't find in a mod.
And I've played it a fair bit, and not only is it fun, but sometimes it's super disorienting. Like when you're doing a little bit too much, and you get kind of like the low gravity spins going on. How's that trigger?
Every time you've seen any spacewalk or anything like that, there's always a little bit of difficulty of staying oriented.
Yeah.
And the higher you go up, the easier it is for your character to get a little off track, or if you've been bumped a little bit, or if you're in a fight, it's going to be a lot more common. And you'll start to lose your orientation and shift on all 6 degrees of your axis. It'll be limited, so it's not so disorienting that it's nauseating, but you will be able to rotate around, and you'll be able to control that too.
Yeah.
But going along with just the amount of distance you can jump, it gets quite exciting and fun to just try to platform around under the entirely new rule set of low gravity.